Coming up on episode 187 of Create If Writing, I'm taking you behind the scenes of a BookBub Featured Deal.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Create If Writing. This is the podcast for you, an author who wants to sell more books without being smarmy. And I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant. I'm so glad you're here. Whether it's your first or 187th time to be here, I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're someone who's listening live, it's 2020. We have kids home, 5 of them with, they don't have COVID-19, but because of COVID-19, we're all at home. So the podcast has become a little more sporadic, and that's just how it's going to be for right now. We're doing the best we can. So I'm really happy when I can come and be here, and sorry for the weeks that I ghost you guys, but I'm never really ghosting you because I'm hanging out on my email list, createifwriting.com/quickfix, and also in the community where you can connect with others like yourself. And that's createifwriting.com/community. So today I'm excited to take you guys behind the scenes on getting a BookBub Featured Deal. And this is one of those kind of like holy grail type things, I feel like, or at least that's how it's always felt to me. BookBub, if you know of it, is a big site that's built a massive email list separated by genre, and they share deals from traditional publishers, traditionally published books, and indies as well. And it's very costly, but it's really kind of been one of those things that's been very, very, very financially good for authors who can secure one for years. And I have never gotten one before, so this was my first. And so I'm just going to talk to you guys about what to expect, how I think I got one, and some tips, and just really kind of keeping it real. So if you want to look at more numbers, because I may not say all the numbers on the podcast just because you're listening and visualizing all that's kind of crazy, but I do have a pretty specific breakdown, and I'm very honest about numbers. If you go to createifwriting.com/187 for episode 187, you will see all that kind of stuff there, and I have some links as well. So let's get into this whole thing about getting a BookBub. So if you don't know BookBub and you haven't heard kind of the buzz, it's really been, for however long they've been around, this was like the kind of thing you wanted to get because it would really make your income for the month, for the year. And from what I've heard from people that have been around a lot longer, like most things, it doesn't work as well as it used to, because things just don't work as well as they used to. They don't always stay consistent. And so I am going to share what my experience was for my first one ever, and how that was. And just to kind of start off, there's a couple different things with BookBubs, and people get a little bit confused. So people talk about like, I got a BookBub. There are different options. So there are BookBub ads, and those are ads that you can set up, like a Facebook ad or Amazon ad, but for BookBub, and they go in the email. I'm not sure if they go on the website. I've not gotten into BookBub ads at all. I've been focusing on Facebook and Amazon, but you can do ads. There's also they've just added a new release featured deal, and I've heard those for the most part have not been worth the money. They have pre-order alerts that are free if you have a certain number of followers. And then I've done a paid pre-order alert, which was a huge, massive waste of money. So the one that people are usually trying to get when they say, I got a BookBub, unless they don't know what they're talking about, is a featured deal. And these you apply for right on the website. Once you've signed in as an author, kind of down at the bottom, they have an option under publishers and authors, and you go submit a new deal. And if you're not using BookBub as an author, you really should set up your account. You can go claim all your books there. You can get followers there. And as you grow your followers, they, kind of like Amazon will, as people follow you, and Amazon will email those people about your book. The same thing will happen with BookBub, that you can get emails sent out to people for free that just let them know that your book's coming out. So there are different tools that you can use. It's a good idea to have things there. You can recommend books to others, have other people recommend yours. So there's a lot you can do with BookBub, but the feature deal is really what people are often trying to get or talking about when they talk about making money. And so I'm going to share, yes, I was profitable, and I'll share kind of how much, but let's start with how to get one, because this is really the hard part. And again, I don't remember to apply every month because I don't like rejection like most people. And so I get really irritated. And then I'm like, well, look at these books. Their covers suck. Why isn't my book on there? And you get that whole mentality where you're comparing yourself and you're like, well, they only have 25 reviews. Mine had 85 reviews. Why they so no mine? So I just really don't apply all that often. I don't think about it very often. And actually I had forgotten all about it. And someone mentioned in a group applying, I was like, oh, I should really apply. Because I have a series that is older, but it's been recovered and now I took them wide. So in case you're unsure, wide and exclusive to Amazon, that's kind of two schools of thought on publishing. Some people keep their books exclusive to Amazon through the Kindle Select program. So you can publish on Amazon and other places, but if you choose to be in Kindle Select, it means your book's going to be in Kindle Unlimited. So anyone paying that subscription service can read your book. That means it can't be anywhere else. So when people talk about being exclusive to Amazon, that's what they mean. And if people are wide, it usually means that they are on a bunch of retailers like Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple, other places. So I've just taken one of my series wide and recovered them. And so I felt like, oh, I might as well apply. And I got one. But it's funny because I applied with both book 1 and book 2. And the series, because they're clean romance, this is under my Emma St. Clair name. It's the Sandover Beach series. They can be read as standalones, but this series in particular, I have intertwined characters. And so like if you're reading book 2, you're going to know kind of the end of book 1. Not that it's really that much of a surprise with romance, unless it's a love triangle. You kind of know who they're going to end up with. But they should be read in order. It's okay if you read out of order. You're not going to be lost in book 2. But I was very surprised that BookBub said no to book 1 and yes to book 2. Now, the common advice on how to get a BookBub, I can't tell you. I can tell you why I think I got one, but I can't tell you really what makes them pick things. Because again, I've seen books, and you probably have too, where the covers are terrible. They don't have a lot of reviews, and you're wondering how they got this featured deal. Often, if it's a wide book, it tends to have a better chance. People will say that. I know there are people with Kindle Unlimited books who get in there. I never did with any of mine. So this is my first BookBub, and it's with a book that's wide. I don't think that's an accident. You'll need to discount your book, usually to 99 cents or free, even discounting to $2.99 if it's like a $9.99 box set. That may not be enough. So having a good discount, having books that are wide. And then I think sometimes if you have a book that hasn't been on sale in a while, because they can go and kind of scrape that data and see like, oh, well, this was on sale a month ago. My book 1 was on sale earlier this year. Before I took it wide, I had one last sale in Kindle Unlimited. And so maybe that was a part of it. I also have a couple, I have one 1-star review and one 2-star reviews. My book 1 in the series, it's been out for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And it actually, at one point, I changed the name of it and put it in another series. I was trying to get people to come from a billionaire series to the beach, and it really didn't work. So I changed the name back because it really just fit better with the beach series. And I do have a note in the description. I talked about it to my email list on Facebook group, but the person with the 1-star review missed the note and got the book and was really disappointed. I totally get it. I really do. And then a 2-star review said it was my most boring book. So that's fine. So maybe that's why, I don't know, my second book didn't have 1 or 2-star reviews. Or maybe it hadn't been on sale. There are some tips from BookBub that I'm going to link to for submission that may help you. But I do think if it's wide, if it's cheap, you do need a good cover and good reviews. I feel like the ones that squeak by that have not so great covers and not very many reviews, they're an exception for some reason. And who knows why? It may just really depend on who's on the other side when they get your submission. But I think that those things helped. My book in particular, I think that this got picked up because the beach series right now are very hot, especially wide. Pamela Kelly has a really fantastic Nantucket series. Lily Mirren has one in Australia, the Waratah Inn. And these books are doing really well. And my cover looks a lot like those covers. And I'm really excited about that because in the beginning when I published the series, this is kind of what I'd hoped for. But I put covers that were more to market for clean romance with couples on them. And they were fine. I liked them. But these are so much better. They're gorgeous. And I really do think that not only did the cover change help, but the fact that these books are hot right now. So my cover artist for this one was Evelyn from Carpe Librum Book Designs. And I do link to that in the show notes. Gorgeous, gorgeous covers. They're amazing in print. So I think that helped. Being wide helped, not having the recent sales, and like I said, the reviews. So I think that's why they chose this book. Again, I was surprised it was book 2, not book 1, because it seems like book 1 would be more successful. And so what I did is I actually went ahead and I have the books published wide through Draft to Digital, which is an aggregator. And what will happen there is you can go upload your manuscript and then click where you want them to send it. And they will send it and they keep a percentage of the sales profits. But then you don't have to go on Apple Books and on Kobo and on all the different places and put your book up, which it just depends on whether you want to spend that time or not. And Apple, I can't sign into anything Apple right now other than my iPhone and my Mac. Apple just hates me. And so I keep getting booted out. And like the other night, they sent one of those, I was trying to reset my password and they kept sending it to my husband. And then he'd give me the code and then I'd sign in and they'd send another code. I think it happened like 15 times. We're caught in this loop, right? So whatever, I go through Draft to Digital. I went in there and I set up the promotion. And then right before the deal started, I went and changed it manually on Amazon. So I actually need to change it manually back tonight. I was super nervous I'd forget or that Amazon would not change it because I know that's happened and then BookBub won't send it. So I went ahead and made book 1 99 cents too because again, this series really does work best in order. And so I wanted to make it as accessible as possible. There are 2 more books and each one is $3.99. And then I do have a 5th book. So total of 5 books. The 5th book is on pre-order for $3.99. Now, Amazon didn't link the series page in time because I realized like the week of the BookBub, I haven't put the 5th book for pre-order. So I had the cover, but I went ahead and stuck it up there and picked a date far off in advance and then asked them to link the series page. They did, I think, the day after the BookBub. So I was still seeing traffic. Otherwise, a lot of people will talk about stacking ads when they get a BookBub. And I've always been like, man, that just seems expensive because BookBubs, this one cost me, I think $480. And it was not the biggest category. It was Christian fiction. And there are bigger categories like romance, I think is maybe $1,000. It's a lot. And so I'm like, why would you spend more money? But I saw very clearly why. And I actually had some promos I had, set up and I moved them. They were gracious enough to move them. So I had 2 promos with Faithful Reads and e-reader news today. And they moved them to July 10th and then July 11th was the BookBub. And it was on a Saturday. So I don't know whether Saturday is better or worse. I would prefer a weekday, but that's what I got with Saturdays. That's what I took. But the nice thing about having the promo the day before is I sold about 200 copies in that one day of the book that was going to have the BookBub. And what that did is that jumped my ranking up so that when the BookBub hit, I ended up dropping to 121 in the Amazon store, which is the lowest I've ever gotten. It was pretty amazing to see. I was really happy. It stayed there for a while too. So having something come right before helped my ranking drop. My ranking wasn't bad. I have Facebook ads running on these, but I do see the wisdom in stacking the ads and trying to keep the book because the balance, you want to keep the book visible. The balance is really how much money can I spend to keep the book visible enough, but I'm still profitable. And with these books at 99 cents, that's kind of hard. But again, I have this whole series. I have 3 other books they can pre-order or they can get the other 2. So I didn't really have any big goals with this. Some people will use them to hit a bestseller list, which would be really hard on a Saturday because they count, I think, from Tuesday to Monday, that 7 days, to hit a bestseller list. And so Saturday, like I got Saturday, Sunday, Monday sales. And that would be really hard to hit a bestseller list with that. So that wasn't my goal, but someone I know got it last week after having a BookBub during the week. I also got to be number 23 in the whole Barnes & Noble store, which is amazing. So that can happen. If you're stacking ads and doing more things, you could see even more results. I did run some Amazon ads. I had some that were already running. And I think I made one more extra ad. So I had some running to the series page on Amazon. And then I created one that had all the links in the text of the ad on Facebook that showed the different links. Like it had a link in the text for Amazon and Kobo and Barnes & Noble and Apple Books. So I did a little bit of stacking and that was a little bit more money. And then I had the Facebook ads and Amazon ads that I was running anyway. So how'd I do? Again, if you go to the show notes, you're going to see a lot of the dollar signs because if I just read them off, your eyes are going to glaze over and you're going to fall asleep. And if you're driving, that's a bad thing. So we're not going to do that. But the basic things, the day of the deal, I'll talk about that. The day of the deal. So I said the day before I stacked ads. The day of the deal, the cost was $480. And I sold $377 worth on just Amazon and $235 on the other retailers. So I ended up, and I don't know why I did the math the way I did. I'm going to have to change this. I'm looking at I've already written up the show notes. So overall, if I look at just book 2, I tried to open my calculator. I opened my clock. So just on the book that had the BookBub on the 2 retailers, let's see, 235, I made $612. So I was profitable just straight out the very day. And some people will say they don't see profit that day, they'll see it later. So that was great. But the whole series ended up making $698 on Amazon and $303 on the other retailers. And so that total, and I have that on there, but I don't trust my math. Okay. Oh yeah, I did the math wrong on that. Okay, so $698 on Amazon for the whole series and $303 on the other retailers for the whole series. So that's $1,001. Yep. I totally did the math wrong. Fixed it. So really for just that one day, I made $1,000. $480 was what I spent. Now that was just on the feature deal. If you take into account the day before where I spent the $90, when you're looking, I looked at kind of the full 6 days. Now I can't see on Draft to Digital today. So it's really 5 days on there. But the other 2 promotions were a total of $90. I spent $200 in Facebook ads and $75 on Amazon ads. So my total expenses ended up being $864. So almost like I spent almost double like on other ads, like I matched it. Basically, I matched that with ads. And if I look at that whole week of sales, the total sales on that whole series, oh, and I got that wrong too. I was really having trouble on here. Series on Amazon. Okay, hang on. I'm going to do this math again too. This is why you should be prepared for things. Maybe I did the math right. Okay, so the total sales of the whole series on Amazon was $1,458. And then on other retailers, the total price on for the series total. Anyway, so the total I made on Amazon and other retailers on those 4 books was $1,953. So almost $2,000. And so when you take away the ad spend for that, let's do this again. I think I went back. I forgot when I was making the blog post to add in the other retailers. So I ended up just really, not having all my numbers. And then I was going back and forth between all of my books. Oh, that's something different. Dude, this is why I shouldn't read the numbers on there. In the blog post, you're going to find numbers because I talked about, this is where I got confused. The total sales on all the books and then the total sales on my series. And so I'm going to have to go redo the math because I deleted the numbers. And now I don't have it up there. But overall, all of my books jumped. And so there was definitely a profit. And then I went and looked at the week before to see what I spent and what I made. So the week before, my total expenses were $282 in ads on Facebook and Amazon. And my total sales were $894. So I had a profit of $612. And so, my profit margin was, I'm going to have to look again because my math was wrong in there. It was not massively different going on with the week of the BookBub, but it was a big increase. And so what I mean is like the amount I spent for ads was more, the amount I made was more. But it wasn't, if you're doing that percentage and kind of seeing what the difference is, it wasn't percentage-wise that much more in terms of my expenses, like that ratio kind of stayed the same. And I'm sure there's a term for that. I am so sorry for all those numbers. The point, you guys, the point is this. I made money, okay? I didn't make crazy money, but I did make more money. And now this month is shaping up to not be maybe my best month of the whole year because I had a really good month in January, but it's going to be a really high month because of that. But again, my expenses were more as well. But here's the thing. When you get something like a BookBub, the benefit is not just the money. If you're looking, kind of scooting back and looking, well, as I said, my whole series got a boost. I sold, how many copies? I have this written down. I ended up selling... I put the number in here. See, this is the numbers. Okay. Almost 2,500 copies total of the 4 beach books in this series. And that is 2,500. It's obviously probably some people bought all 4 books. So it's not 2,500 new readers, but it's a lot of new readers, thousands of new readers that I haven't had before that are now meeting me for the first time and reading my books, hopefully. And one thing that happens is when you're using like a free promotion, often people will stockpile free books and never read them. But when they're buying the book, there's a little bit more investment and people tend to read. At least that's what the conjecture is that when people are actually putting some money where their mouth is, they tend to actually read. So I'm hoping I've got a lot more readers. I have seen reviews starting to creep up. So people are reading and reviewing this series. And I did see my pre-orders also jump. So I have a related beach book that's takes place in the same place. So it's not in the series, but it has the same island name. And that one's a full price, $4.99 on pre-orders. And so I had kind of like 3 pre-orders maybe. So I've gotten 10 more on that one. And I got 20 pre-orders so far on that 5th book in the series. And that's at full price at $3.99. So I am seeing some pre-orders. I'm seeing some reviews, and hopefully I've found some new readers. As I mentioned, there was someone I know that got a BookBub last week and ended up on the bestseller list. Just to give you some numbers, like I was not expecting that at all because I know the numbers because I've been on the USA Today bestseller list and the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Typically, you want to aim for 10,000 copies. So like I said, I sold 2,500 total of 4 books. So obviously, I would have needed to do a whole lot more ad stacking, a whole lot more promotion for the book if I actually wanted to hit that list. And you also need to sell something like at least 500. These are all numbers that people guesstimate, but it's pretty on track from my experience. You want to sell around 10,000 copies. A little bit under, you might be able to squeak in there. It depends on the week because you're compared to other people. So if it's a low week, you might get on with less. They'd like to see around 500 on at least one other retailer. So like not 500 combined Apple, Kobo, and Google Play or Barnes & Noble, but like 500 on at least one of those sites. Now, I do know people who've made those lists with less numbers, and I know people who missed out with more. So it's not science, it's not exact, but that's kind of about the goal is you're going to want to have like 7,000 to 10,000 books sold and at least 500 on one other platform. So I was not close to hitting that. With just my one book, which I think the book that had the BookBub sold just under 2,000 copies, which is nothing to sneeze at, especially in a week. It's fantastic. But if you want to hit a bestseller list with the BookBub, you're definitely going to have to ad stack both other promo sites and also Facebook and Amazon ads, and maybe set up newsletter swaps. I didn't have newsletter swaps to set up because this was kind of a last minute BookBub and I was already full. So I did ask people to share in Facebook groups for me, and I did some trades there like, hey, I'll share in my group your book if you share mine and yours. And I went into some other Facebook groups that are pretty active and shared there as well. But, overall, my big takeaway was it was profitable. But it wasn't like a magic bullet. And that's kind of what I've heard from people. It's not the magic bullet it used to be where you do BookBub and you sell thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. I was profitable. I'm happy with that. And I'm just happy I got a BookBub. Like, I feel like to some degree, there's almost like this, I don't know. It's dumb. I am mad at myself for thinking this, but it's almost like this club you want to get in. So you can be like, oh yeah, I've had a BookBub. P.S. I don't want to say that. This episode is not like, oh yeah, I got a BookBub, because I know I'm going to get a rejection for whatever I turn in next. Like I just know, like that's just how it's going to be. Maybe I'll never get one again. This was my one, and I can, die knowing I had a BookBub. And that's silly, you guys. Okay. Because there's other ways to do promotion. And I think in the next episode, I talked about this in the Facebook group. I would like to talk about sustainable marketing versus non-sustainable marketing. So if you are trying to create a promotional plan for your books, a BookBub is not sustainable. You have no control over whether you get one or not. And so it's not sustainable. You can't be like, okay, I'm going to build my entire business plan, my entire launch plan around getting a BookBub, because you have no control. And once you apply for that book, they say to wait 4 full weeks. So if they reject it, 4 full weeks before you apply again. It is not a sustainable thing, okay? Something sustainable is like daily promotions that you do. Like, for example, I have a number of pretty low-cost Facebook ads running on my books, and that's my sustainable right now. And if you're interested in that, I have this also linked in the show notes, but I did a workshop in June on Facebook ads. And all the workshops I do over this year are sold after the live event. And I have other things in there. So I have case studies in there. I have walkthroughs on how to set up ads. It does not take you through every single facet of setting up Facebook ads and different kinds of ads and lead gen ads and all the things you can do, all the bells and whistles. All it will do is help you understand how to run affordable, profitable Facebook ads and how to tweak things if it's not going well, how to read the results and all that. So for me, that's what's sustainable. I learned Facebook ads. I am using that to daily sustain my business. And then you have these big blips on the radar that are things like BookBubs or a book launch or some kind of big thing that happens, like going on a podcast and suddenly everybody buys your books. Those are not the sustainable things. And so I think I'll talk about that in another episode. But overall, the BookBub was profitable. Even if you didn't follow my numbers, because I could hardly follow them. I'm going to have to go back now because the math didn't make sense when I was looking at the series, because I forgot. I'm so not used to being wide. I'm so used to looking at just the Amazon numbers that I was like, man, I really didn't make any money. And then I was like, oh, I forgot. I forgot completely about these other retailers. So I'll go back and do the math. It will be correct, hopefully, in the show notes at creativewriting.com/187. So I would say to you, if you're trying to get a BookBub, I gave you, some advice. The site gives you some advice, but, don't give up. But also, no, don't plan your business around it. It's yes, I made more money, but I had to spend more money to make that. It was good. It was not amazing, but it was great, right? And I'm hoping that my books can stay kind of buoyant up near the top where they are. I had 2 books, the book 1 and book 2, both broke the top 1,000 on Amazon at the same time, which was so much fun. But it doesn't last. So now I've got to go back to, okay, I've got my daily sustainable Facebook ads. How can I put the right amount of money to keep those books up in the rankings where I want them to stay and also where I'm profitable? Because ranking isn't the most important thing. Getting a BookBub isn't the most important thing. Not having that orange flag as an Amazon bestseller, not the most important thing. The most important thing is ROI, return on investment for your time and money. So what is going to be that right number for me to put into Facebook ads or promotions to keep that money coming back to the degree I want it? So I hope that's helpful if you're thinking about applying for BookBubs. I do have a spreadsheet that I sometimes remember to update with when I've applied so that I don't irritate them by applying for the same book more than I'm supposed to. So that's a good idea, but just, don't stop doing it. Even if your book's in KU, I do know people who get them in KU sometimes. And so it just may depend on the month. It may depend on the day. It may depend on the person who is checking and how much coffee they've had to drink that day, whether you get that BookBub or not. Hang in there. It does work, but it's not a daily sustainable thing. So if you never get a BookBub, that's okay. You can still be a profitable author. It does not hinge on this. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. So go check out the show notes with the correct numbers, creativewriting.com/187. If you want to join my email list so that you're getting my weekly updates as well as resources, tips, tools, and more, you can go to creativewriting.com/quickfix. And if you want to talk to other people in the community and share stories, ups and downs, it's a very great positive place to be, especially in this time where Facebook is really not a positive place to be. We keep it positive in there. So you can go to creativewriting.com/community. If you love the tunes for the show, big shout out to Jasmine, Commerce of Jasmine, commercemusic.com, for lending her lovely voice. And that's it for this week. I'm going to come back and talk to you guys hopefully soon about sustainable versus not sustainable marketing. It's time for you now to go out, create content that you love, and serve your people well.